Hey guys, welcome to Her World. The game is story rich and starts off with the main character falling into a mysterious world with the girl he meets there. During his journey, he stumbles into other female characters. As the game progresses, the world slowly starts to unveil itself and its secrets. You need to explore the world through a variety of quests that immerse you into the game. There are always new ways to enjoy this new world as you attain memory fragments through your progress in the main storyline and additional quests. This game is a completely new work based on the motif set forth in Workingdog's 2013 release, A World with No People. So if you're interested in the game, you can check out the link in the description below. Well, let's start a new game then. Let's see. It's always a good name, though it probably doesn't fit the setting. Is my name Groot? Yes. Is it loading? Oh, yo, now it is. Someone collided with me on the side crosswalk. It was summer day when you could see the heat coming up in waves. There was clearly no one on the road, only the sound of the cicadas broke the silence. Oh my god. A bunch of water had formed a small puddle on the ground in front of me. On a day as hot as today, how was there a puddle of rain here? Good question. Watch where you're going, you dumb. There's no one there. I finished glaring over toward. I don't know how to do a female voice. A girl I'd never seen was standing there. It hadn't rained, but that didn't stop her from wearing a red raincoat. She was looking at me with a blank look on her face, arms outstretched. A girl I didn't know, she just shoved me. I peered at her drenched figure. I couldn't make sense of the situation, so I forgot to get angry, and at that moment, the crosswalk signal was clearly still green, but a car with windows tinted dark as night sped past. The car was just as black as the tint on its windows. The large hunk of metal passing close enough to brush against me almost sent me rolling across the asphalt once more. It didn't even look like the driver had thought about stepping on the brakes. They did not even care if they ran us down. If I hadn't fallen after being hit the first time and kept on crossing, who knew what might have happened to me? Then again, if I hit the ground a bit harder, I may have been crushed under the car. No matter how you looked at it, the driver of the car was clearly not in the right mind. And this girl, she was sent to save. She was trying to save me. She attacked. Let's go with save. Hey. I jumped up and approached the girl. She looked up at me. Maybe I shouldn't have put my name as Groot. Doesn't fit the storyline now, does it? Were you hurt? She's a girl with silent words. Are you okay? I thought about it for a bit, but her eyes were just so empty, to the point where it was hard to figure out if she was in the wrong or not.
Okay.
It's just... Her eyes went down to my arm. She started trembling like she was frightened. I must have skinned it because it was bleeding. Then the pain set in. I'm fine, it wasn't your fault. What were you doing there? The girl slowly stretched her hand out toward my wound. The whole movement looked rather odd. Huh. What are you doing? Were you hurt too? The moment I saw that bandage through the girl's raincoat, Oh, what just happened? Rain poured down on my head. It was if the skies had opened up. What? What just happened? I closed my eyes and opened them again, only to find there was nothing there. Huh. Everything I just saw came as a shock, so I had another look around. Where had she gone? The rain had stopped, the puddle was gone, and there wasn't a single drop of water anywhere on my body. Was the intense heat causing me to hallucinate? Perhaps so. Ah, what of it? The sunlight beat down on me. Only the sound of the cicadas echoed along the empty street. Standing there like a dummy was only going to make me late. The clothes I thought had gotten wet in that phantom puddle were dry. The only thing that had changed was the scrape on my arm. After a quick glance to check that I was alone, I tried to compose myself and just act natural. Then I crossed the street the rest of the way as if nothing at all had happened. A normal day, an ordinary summer when nothing out of the ordinary had happened, straight from my childhood. It was no young first love, it was no memory of horsing around with friends, no memory of a terrible report card or test result. It was just a strange event not worth remembering. At least that was how I tried to rationalize the whole thing. And now, after so much time had passed, because I had forgotten such a trivial event, it was like a kitchen knife being plunged into my side, or is that being too dramatic? Whoa. Use your memory shards to see what happened. Quest, explore new areas and collect memory shards. I see, so it's because he forgot what had happened. So was this 1 out of 54 episodes? It's a lot of episodes. Let's proceed with the story. This was bound to happen one day. I knew things would end up like this. Despite how much I had prepared my mind for this, it was a wall of pain. As soon as it was over, I left in a hurry. I ran some more. I rode the subway to some station I'd never been to before and got off. I was running like a crazy person without any destination in mind. Wait, wasn't he running to the train? After wandering for hours like that, I happened upon the neighborhood I'd spent my childhood years in. I looked up. A large university-run hospital caught my eye. I could remember cutting through the inside of the building to get to school quickly, though the place looked to have been renovated since then. Out of habit, I pulled out my phone to check what was going on. I had all sorts of messages and missed calls. I blocked every one of them. How in the world have I held out this long? Is it my brawn, not my brains, pulling me through? I put away my phone, figuring I could completely lost my mind, and headed for the hospital. I figured I wouldn't meet anyone I knew in that direction. It's an empty hospital. Automatic doors swishing open, crowds of people waiting for or receiving treatment. Bells signaling the arrival of noon resonated through the hospital. Ding dong. The chorus of sound seemed to camouflage my arrival. After meandering about the place for a while, I saw an old elevator. Good. That was my ticket. All I wanted was to be in a closed-off space. I stepped onto the elevator. The button for the 4th floor seemed larger than the others. Not a bad option for the time being. I jabbed the 4th. Well, 4th floor, here we go. A sign of relief slipped through my lips. Anyway, I looked at it. I must have lost my mind back there. Wow. The fact that the elevator seemed much too old for this sterile hospital environment, and the fact that the hospitals usually skip the 4th floor or labeled it as F due to superstition. For those of you who don't know, 4th floor, if I'm not mistaken, some believe to be related to death. So usually it's like 3A rather than 4. Neither thought occurred to me. The elevator door opened. I took a single step before noticing how strangely muggy it was, and before my eyes there was no one. Just another wing of the hospital. Yeah, just another wing. Only the sound of my footsteps echoed through the silent hallway. The usual hospital announcement, the crowds of people having their conversations. There was none of that on this floor. A woman with long hair standing a ways down the hall looked at me for a moment. But then she walked quickly around a corner and disappeared. I was the only one here. That was a good thing, though. The sunlight streaming through the far window was strangely hazy. I grabbed at the handle to one of the doors and turned it with a loud creak. I had no idea why I did it, but the sound was actually quite pleasant. It was suddenly so dark that I thought the sun might have gone down already. The windows in the hospital rooms I passed were all cracked or broken. Even the overhead lights kept flickering on and off every once in a while. It was a filth unsuited to a hospital. Clearly. The walls were cracked. Half of a wheelchair was lying battered on the floor. I kicked the crunch of concrete, sending it skittering. Again, so satisfying. When you can escape reality, everything. Huh. Finally, after walking further down the hall than I wanted to admit, I realized how off everything was. What is this place? Where am I? Is this really the same hospital? Hello? No answer. Is anyone there? Only my voice echoed off the walls of the silent hall. The echoes that returned were only me. Since I couldn't quite get a grasp on what was going on, my hand reached for a blind covering one of the windows. The blinds seemed ancient. They crashed to the floor. The metal frame clanked against the floor as it rolled, causing quite a racket. However, what the? One good thing from all that, I wouldn't be sued for vandalism. The hospital building falling apart from decay. The cold mist hanging over the place. The cars with so much rust that it seemed they'd been in the elements for hundreds of years. Beyond where the blinds once hung, the world was in tatters. Oh, that was the reaction I was actually gonna give. This looks really good. I mean, not if you were in that situation. After a few deep breaths, I looked out the window once more. However, the sunshine beating down on the hospital walls didn't return. The buildings were crumbling, the cars were rusting hunks of metal. Not a single one of the people normally scurrying about was anywhere to be seen. Opening the window didn't change the scenery. the mist caressed my cheeks. The anxiety got the best of me and I pulled out my phone to check the messaging app. Then I realized that I had blocked all of the numbers and didn't have to answer the messages every 5 seconds, eliciting to a sign of relief. With a single click, I snapped a picture of the strangely magnificent collapsed remains of the building. Anyone there? Hello? Again, no answer but the echo of my own voice. Even if I was screaming in a panic, there was no one there to pay me any heed. I tried my hardest to wrap my head around the situation I had found myself in, but no satisfactory conclusion came. I gave the old blinds that had fallen off a desperate examination, as if I could find evidence as to what was happening there. Unfortunately though, the worn tatters that remained also looked to be a few hundred years old, adding another layer to my confusion. What's going on? The confusion made way for a bout of rage, and I collapsed to the floor. I carefully grabbed the rusty door handle and made my way back to the hallway I had come from. The elevator. I could go back using the elevator. I felt certain that riding that would straighten everything out, with no basis for thinking that, or reason. The judgment of a college student witnessing the end of the world only extended so far. Thunk, thunk. The only sound in that empty hallway was that of my heavy steps. Every footfall left a print of my shoe in the layer of dust. The cracked walls made the place smell of old concrete. I saw traces of something that had passed through here. Whatever it wasn't human. Suddenly, I realized just how far I had walked compared to my first time through here. Had I passed the elevator? I saw a door that had fallen off its hinges. In front of it, an open doorway that was probably where I had been hanging. The plate to the side, marking some sort of clinic, had been half worn away. Slowly, I moved to peer inside the room. It was dark, but I could just make out a light switch within reach. Then, believe it or not, I got goosebumps for a moment there. The room was filled with letters traced in dark red. The dim light blinked as though it were about to go out at any second. There were so many letters in that discolored red hue. Patterns, drawings, graffiti. Judging by the amount of writing covering the floor and the walls, it seemed as though someone had been trapped in here for a very long time. The words seemed to blend together in some sort of being that stared at me. At the end of the door on the other side of the room, something knocked, like it wanted to break through every second. Like it was asking me to open the door. Wow, the sound effects sound really good. The sound scared me so bad that I jumped back, my foot landing on a piece of glass. It looked to be one of the pieces of the emergency exit sign that now littered the area. The tinkle of broken glass helped my brain, lost in panic for a moment there, to gain some semblance of sanity back. Everything was quiet behind the door once more. This place. Where am I? The question flashed in my mind before I turned my thoughts elsewhere. This isn't the collapse of my world I'm witnessing. This isn't something that just happened. Maybe I was transported to this place when I stepped off the elevator. Where am I? What is this place? Horror movies about secret rooms in hospitals and the biological experiments that took place in them came to mind. It really seemed like that could be the case here. But then, why was the outside world in ruins? I felt a cold sweat trickle down the back of my neck. I turned away from the room full of writing, back towards the hallway once more. The moment I did, there was a thunk. Then something appeared in front of me. Finally, another being was here to greet me. Here in this world, I couldn't make heads or tails out of. In that moment, I felt so glad and relieved. Unfortunately for me, that thing had fallen in front of me was beyond my realm of understanding. What is that? It looks like a blob of blood, or perhaps a shadow. It was black, maybe a clump of oil. This oblong congealed lump of something sucking the constant flow of liquid back into itself was standing right there in front of me. It had a sticky looking body, multiple legs sticking out of the sleek torso. No, more like a conglomeration of thick tentacles. The slow way it oozed about made me think of the slime children played with. I guess I could see that. And what on earth was that giant shadow following along behind it? One hand was barely able to make it out of my mouth before the scream came out. It was like encountering a savage beast high up in the mountains. The feeling that everything would end if that scream leaked out dominated any other thought. I'm gonna save the game for now, just in case. Yes. I'm gonna take a quick break. Alright, let's continue. So the object was slowly sliding toward me. Without realizing what I was doing, I instinctively raised my hand in front of my eyes and stepped back as slowly as I could so I didn't provoke the thing. Where was it I heard that you were supposed to avoid eye contact and slowly step backward? But the thing didn't have any eyes. Gulp. Why is this happening to me? Is it something I did? Is it because I ran? Is this my guilt giving me a nightmare? If this is a dream, please let me wake up. Then, as I took a few frantic steps backward, my hand latched onto something. A metal pipe, probably had once been part of a medical device or hospital bed. It was quite rusty, but it was thick and had some heft to it. In the midst of all the panic and fear, in the midst of this surreal nightmare, the cool metal in my hand brought a completely different feeling to mind. Yep, I'm not normally like this. This isn't how I wanted to live my life. I got a firm grip on the heavy metal pipe, took a step toward the tentacles coming off the thing, and... I couldn't take a swing. Something soft and squishy was behind me, preventing me from moving. Before I could scream, it had something over my mouth and around my limbs. It threw me to the floor like a beast would its prey. There was another one, another behind me. You son of a... The thing in front of me was also slithering quickly in my direction. I could still move my right arm. I tried a desperate swing with the pipe in that direction. The rusty pipe cracked in half, just like the blinds a while back. I can't breathe. I can't move. How am I supposed to fight against these things? Do they even have joints I can target? The cold sensation engulfing my body was entirely unpleasant. It felt like sinking into a puddle of mud. The weird creatures, they were constantly chanting something I couldn't recognize. I couldn't tell if it was closer to human language or animal grunts, but it was ringing in my ears without end. Just as the horror of the situation was about to drive me insane. I heard the sounds of footsteps coming down the hall. Something was nearby. I mean, someone was nearby. In that moment, I pushed the fear out of my mind and used all my strength to rip away the tentacle covering my face. I heard a snap that made it sound like I was breaking someone's arm. After gasping for breath through my newly liberated mouth, I shouted, "Stay back, it's dangerous. This place, it's too dangerous for you to come alone. Get help." Preventing others from getting hurt was priority number one. I had no idea whose footsteps those were, but I couldn't let whoever it was get close. I twisted as hard as I could, sending me and the creature rolling to the floor. I tensed up, meaning to crush the creature, and grabbed hold of it. It was as slick as oil, as smushy as squid, and as cold as ice. However, it was giving off the smell of a human body. There was also the muttering in something resembling language, something that I couldn't understand. It felt deep down that just listening to it put me in danger. Please hold out, muscles, at least until the other person can escape. But then, the sound of the footsteps didn't stop. They were clearly coming this way. I said, "Stay back. You're in danger." Do you not understand what I'm saying? These things will attack, so stay away. I've got a hold of it. Well, it's got a hold of me. However, the owner of the footsteps ignored my polite suggestion, coming right up behind me. I forced my body to turn so I could shoot the person in glare. It's the lady just now. As I desperately craned my neck around for a look, the girl I had seen earlier came into my line of sight. Her black hair gently fluttering about her. The muted blouse and long skirt seemed normal at first glance, but where a belt should be, it looked more like a coat string. Against the white of her pale skin, the outfit looked dark enough to be something you might wear to a funeral. This girl had an odd air about her, like someone you might turn for a second glance at after passing on the street. However, the reason you wouldn't actually turn back. Those eyes looking down at me, they were as cold as if she was staring straight at her sworn nemesis. The woman drew close, no hint of hesitation in her steps. It's like a horror film. Then she proceeded to mercilessly trample the creatures that had me wrapped in their clutches. As she did, my beaten brain was ripped back to reality. That hurts. Those shoes may look like walking shoes, but they've got a heel on them. Well, she has a knife. With that expressionless face of hers, she pulled out something that had been hidden behind her locks of hair, a knife with a blue blade. The end of the blade. It's so clearly aimed right at me. Ah, I see. I'm a dead man. I couldn't say what I'd done wrong. I had no idea what had gone on in this world. I didn't know what those creatures were. I had no idea what kind of person this girl was. However, the look on her face as she wielded that blade said it all. That knife was for me. I was going to die. In the midst of all these experiences that felt unreal, that was the only thing standing as a fact. For some reason, my mind went back to the time I was pushed while crossing the road. Such a meaningless memory. I could barely remember the details. That was 5 years ago. Why am I remembering that now? The tentacle that was covering my mouth slipped down a bit. I looked up the girl staring down at me and spoke. Sorry. The moment I mumbled those words out of sheer habit, the blade descended. She did blush when I said sorry though. Again, it sank deep. Black fluid sprayed in all directions. The black creature was thick enough to block the blade from reaching my body, but the knife swung in wide arcs, slicing off chunks of the thing. With my arms and legs still tied up, on the left side of my chest, I felt the touch of cold steel. I could feel the sharp end of the blade through my clothes. Then, as the pressure grew to where I thought it would sink in at any moment, the descent of the blade slowly halted. That tapered end of the blade shook, as if it was resisting something, as if there was some conflict that couldn't be resolved. In those few seconds that felt like an eternity, the woman slowly closed her eyes. She wrapped her other hand around the trembling edge of the blade and slowly pulled it away from her chest.
잡아.
Grab hold. Then she stuck the hand out to me. The mutilated black body had released me from its grasp without me realizing what had happened. I grabbed her hand and stood up. Oh, thank you.
달릴 수 있겠어?
Can you run? Excuse me? The woman pointed off down the hall, to the place I'd been before, to the room with the red letters. From that direction, the giant tentacle thing was coming right for me. The shadow.
뛰어. 말려들기 전에.
Run before you get tangled up in the hat. What in the world is...
일단 뛰라니까?
I said run. Going now. My panic-stricken mind finally found where it needed to go. I started running, led by this knife-wielding woman. Right before we left the dilapidated hallway, my head turned for the one last look back. The giant tentacle shadow was sucking up the scattered black fluid. go on this quest. Quest can be accessed from the lobby anytime. 2 shards obtained on clear. Quests aren't necessary to proceed with the main story. Tell you what, let's go with the quest. Would you like to embark on this quest? Complete the quest to acquire shards. First clear only. I'm guessing that means I can't go back for like 2nd shard or 3rd shard. This world of ruins, reach your destination. Oh wow, I thought this was going to be like a story, but I get to actually get involved. Move with WASD on the keyboard or by left clicking on the path. Run by pressing the spacebar or by right clicking on the path. Interact with objects by left clicking on them. That is so cool. I see, so I gotta hold. Is there something I can pick up? No, I cannot. So by holding right click I get to run. It's so spooky, there's no hospital corridor I've ever seen. Man, I have a feeling that's gonna be monsters chasing me. I just want to see what's in this direction. It turns here, might as well keep going then. The elevator, better hurry. Wait, was that it? Maybe I should have adventured the other way then. Play quests to unlock shards that you can use to unlock sub-stories and various skins you can use. I'm guessing these are the other characters that I haven't met yet, and then I have 2 shots now. So let's proceed with the main story. In the abandoned hospital hall, the only sound was the echoing steps of our feet. One said heavy, one said light. So her name is Hyuna. This woman who said her name was Hyuna spun her knife a few times. I saw a bit of black liquid fly off as she spoke.
그러니까 내가 널 찌를 거라고 생각했다는 거야?
So did you really think I was going to stab you? Yes. She wiped the blade off on my shirt. How nice.
쟤들이 아니라?
Not those things. Nope.
대체 왜?
Why would you think that? Well, it's just... I wanted to say because you were staring at me, but I swallowed the words. I was sure she was staring at me down. Was staring me down, not those things. I stared at Hyuna, who was busy using my shirt to make sure her knife was spotless. The sweet, fruity scent of her smooth, straight hair tickled my nose. I've never smelled a shampoo like that. Now that I can see it up close, her hair sure is long. I'm sorry if you take this the wrong way, but... Yeah? Are you a person?
무슨 뜻으로 하는 말이야?
What's that supposed to mean? Hyuna spun around and glared at me. Her hair whipped around her as she did. The action straight out of a shampoo commercial left me with a chill, but I decided to calmly explain what I meant. It's just... You're not a ghost, are you? Hyuna got really quiet. Her look just a few minutes before, that emotionless expression as she hacked away at the thing came to mind. It reminded me of the rancher at the farmer's market who asked if I ever heard the grunts of a dying pig when its throat was cut. Most people would turn and run in such a situation. Hyuna lowered her head without moving her upper body at all. She slowly approached. Who did she remind me of? There was that celebrity who was always floating around like that. It was like she was riding down a moving walkway, all floating like a phantom. A cold sweat started up once more. Then, I think she's just messing with him. Boo. As I fell backward and lifted both hands to shield myself from Hyun-a's, she stood up on her tiptoes and lifted her arms as well. She looked as if she wanted to eat me, mouth agape. The whites of her teeth almost lined up with my neck. Come to think of it, she was quite short, huh? Actually, considering my own height, it was hard to call her short. Hyun-a froze up for the moment, looking a bit embarrassed.
어떻게 구해준 사람을 귀신 취급하니?
How could you think the person who saved you was a ghost? She stepped back and spun around in place. Her hair graced my face. So, you are a person, right?
응.
Yep. Phew. She seemed to be human. That was a relief. It's still funny how I said seemed to be human. Right, if she was really human, there was nothing to fear. He still doubts himself.
손까지 잡고서 따라와 놓고 귀신인지 의심해?
You literally held onto my hands as I pulled you along. How could you think I was a ghost? Sorry.
대학생이지? 몇 학년?
You're a college kid, huh? What year? One of the four.
어린 것이 버릇이 없구나.
From your lack of manners, I assume you're young. Young?
응.
You heard me. You're talking about me?
그럼 너 말고 누가 있어?
Who else would I be talking about? Hyun-a raised her chin up to peer down her nose at me. Nobody had told me I looked young since middle school. I mean, how old are you to be talking down to me like that? What was that? Hyun-a smiled and squinted at me.
몇 살로 보이는데?
How old do I look? Well... Ooh, this is dangerous. I'll go with 20s. I think this is the safest. You look pretty close to me. Maybe a little younger? Actually, you might be my age, no?
어딜 보고 그렇게 생각한 건데?
What did you see that clued you in? Well, I mean... Hyun-a puffed her chest out and pressed up against me. Her pale face was directly under mine. I couldn't help but notice those long eyebrows of hers.
너희 나이대 애들이 나처럼 생겼니?
Do other kids your age look like me? No, but...
동기 중에 나 정도 되는 애가 있어?
Have you met a girl in your class that measures up? What do you mean?
얼굴이랑 몸.
Face-wise? Body-wise?
똑바로 보고 말해봐.
Take a good look before you weigh in. Hyun-a's smile excluded confidence. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't go around bragging about how pretty you are.
좀 예뻐?
Just a little pretty then?
좀?
Just a little? I mean, you are very pretty.
그래, 그래야지.
Good. That's what I thought. Sorry, I'm just not normally one to judge.
그치?
Thought as much. Hyuna let out a content giggle. You couldn't say no to a pretty face like that. So,
어때?
how are you?
이젠 좀 괜찮아?
Feeling a little better? What?
아까 손이 떨리고 있었잖아.
Your hands were shaking before.
허세 부리곤 있어도 많이 놀랐지?
I know you were trying to act tough, but all this must have been come as quite a shock, huh? At some point I had forgotten that I almost died back there. Hyuna was also casually exchanging jokes with me now. Was all that just to get me to relax? Was the age talk just a diversion to steer me away from how heavy things had gotten? How long had it been since someone had been so kind to me? Hyuna grabbed me by the hand. Her hand was cold, but her soft fingers enveloping mine put my mind at ease. I thought when he said her hand was cold, she would have probably thought that she was a ghost again.
이젠 괜찮아. 응?
You're okay now, right?
내가 있으니까.
Because I'm here. Just want to say thanks again for all that.
이제야 말을 잘 듣네.
Finally listening now. I gave her a little bow in thanks and she patted me on the head. Couldn't be letting my guard down though. It may have looked like she saved me, but I couldn't rule out that she really meant to stab me. So he still has doubts. I had no idea how things stood between us. With my guard back up to its proper level, I cautiously asked Hyuna a question as she led the way. So, what were those things back there? Where exactly is this place I've been wandering to?
어디?
Where? Yeah, where? Hyuna turned back my way with a slight grin on her face.
눈치 빠른데?
You're pretty bright, aren't you? That was a strange response.
대개는 무슨 사고가 터진 거냐고 물어보거든.
They usually ask what sort of accident caused all this. She said they usually ask. Does that mean he's not the first one here?
자기가 옮겨진 거라고는 생각보다 잘 눈치채지 못해.
They don't usually realize that they've been moved.
미사일이라도 떨어진 줄 알더라니까.
They normally chalk it up to a missile or something. So it wasn't that?
그랬으면 이 정도로 끝났겠어?
You think that would cause all this? Hyuna brought her hands together and then rocketed them apart in an exploding gesture. Her playfulness stood at odds with the energy of this place. Certainly does.
뭐, 일단 따라와.
For now, just follow me.
돌아가게 해줄 테니까.
I'll get you back. I mean, I'd rather have an explanation. Hyuna slunk right back in front of me and jabbed her finger at my lips to cut me off. What was she saying though? I had a right to... none of it really mattered then. My body was asking me to back away, but I stood there. I gazed into Hyona's eyes as she rested her finger on my lips.
넌 돌아가고 싶다고 했고
You said you wanted to go back.
일단 나가고 나면 여기로 돌아올 일은 없을 거야.
Once you leave, you won't return.
그런 네가 이곳에 대해 알 필요가 있을까?
Then you have no need to learn anything about this place, right? How about you use the energy for your studies? A big smile said. But I'm wrapped up in all of this.
당사자면 스스로 생각해 보든가.
If you're involved, figure it out yourself. That's not very nice.
생명의 은인한테 왜 친절까지 바라니?
What makes you think you can ask a person who saved your life to be kind?
생명의 은인한테. 응?
Saved your life, didn't I? It sort of felt like she was boasting. She did save me though. You sort of gave her the right. But still, she probably knew everything that was going on, so why not tell me? You saved me, so shouldn't you take some responsibility here? I wasn't going to let this slide.
책임?
Responsibility? Hyuna got right up to my face. In my face. Her expression hard to read. My face was reflected in those big clear eyes of hers. Wow, such big eyes. Was she a celebrity around these parts? Hello?
책임져 줄까?
You want me to take some responsibility?
귀여워.
Ah, you're so cute. Ah, come on. This girl, she had a habit of pushing her face right up to mine when she felt like she was at a disadvantage. Was it her confidence? I couldn't deny that she had her fair share.
그래. 조금 표현을 바꿔서 말해줄게.
Alright, I'll phrase it a bit differently.
알면 못 돌아갈 수도 있어.
If I tell you, you might not be able to go back. Wow, her facial expression changed. In a completely new and terrifying voice, Hyuna dropped that bomb on me.
말해줘?
Should I tell you? I can't live without knowing.
그래. 누나 말 잘 들어야지.
That's right, you should listen to what I have to say. With how my savior was acting, I really had nothing to say. Was there actually some hidden research lab in this hospital or something? For a while after, Hyuna led me down one hallway after another. There were sharp pieces of steel jutting out of everywhere and floors chipped to a dangerous degree. Among all the neglected junk and piles of dust, here was Hyuna's, as clean as if she had come straight from another world. I was lost in Hyuna's energy, but then a wave of anxiety made me check my phone. Then, I remembered that I didn't need to check it and switched it off. Hyuna kept asking me when I had felt like I disappeared. I thought about all the action I'd taken after running away, before landing on that last memory of taking the hospital elevator.
엘리베이터라.
An elevator, huh? After peering through an open door into a hospital room, Hyuna closed the door before I could get over to see what she was looking at and kept talking.
뭐? 흔한 케이스야.
Well, quite common in these cases. What do you mean? Hyuna casually grabbed my hand and led me away from the door.
엘리베이터는 이상한 곳으로 연결되곤 하잖아?
Elevators often lead to some pretty strange places, don't they? Do they? They shouldn't.
왜?
Why not? Obviously they should go to whatever floor
뭐가 당연한데?
What's obvious about that? Huh. Hyona's hands were smooth but also quite cold. Was that normal for her?
바깥이 보이지도 않는 상자에 들어가 버튼을 누를 뿐이잖아.
She has a point. You're just shutting yourself in a box you can't see outside of and pushing a button.
이게 원하는 장소로 가고 있다고 대체 뭘 보고 확신해?
What exactly can you see that makes you so certain you're going where you want to go? The screen tells you what floor you're on. Hyuna looked me right in the eye. Huh. Hold up.
그치?
You see now? Hyuna gave me a smile only a model could give.
그 화면을 조작하는 것만으로 사람을 전혀 엉뚱한 장소에 내리게 할 수 있어.
Just by manipulating a single screen, you could carry someone off to a place they'd never expect.
9층이라고 해놓고 8층에 내리게 하거나
It could read that it was on the 9th floor and let you off on the 8th.
올라가는 중에 회전해서 반대 방향으로 내리게 할지도 모르지.
It could go up, reverse direction, and then head back down with you none the wiser. What place has elevators like that?
있을 수도 있지. 왜?
Why, you think it's not possible? You should go through life with a bit more faith.
그렇게 세상을 믿어서 지금 네가 여기 있는 거야.
You had faith and look where that got you. Right here. Hyuna rubbed my wrist as she said that. I mean, it's just how the system works.
통제할 권한이 다른 사람 손에 있는 시스템이잖아.
It's a system that is controlled by someone else's hands. The tone of Hyona's voice grew dark.
외국의 어떤 살인마는 사냥을 위한 건물을 지었다고 해.
I heard that this one serial killer in another country built a whole building as his hunting ground.
그 건물의 모든 엘리베이터 로비는 아주 비슷하게 만들어져 있어서
All of the lobbies
그냥
that
내려서는 몇 층인지 알기 힘들었다고 하지.
Oops. All of the lobbies the elevator exit onto look really similar. So it's hard to tell what floor you're getting off on.
감시 카메라로 엘리베이터 안을 보다가 적절한 희생자가 탑승하면 기계를 조작해 숨겨진 층에서 내리게 하는 거야.
He's got this CCTV camera that lets him see into the elevator, and right when the perfect victim steps on, he messes with the machine to send the person to a hidden floor.
화면의 숫자는 누른 그대로니까 희생자는 아무것도 모르고 내리게 되고.
And just because the numbers show the same floor the victim pressed on, they get off without knowing the trap they're stepping into. Hyuna was now pressing on my wrist so hard it hurt.
그리고 그 순간 도끼를 든 범인이 등 뒤에서 확!
Then, just as they least expected, the killer's axe goes right into the victim's back. Thunk!
그 건물이 여기야.
Oh, I got goosebumps. That's the very building you're currently standing in. You just said the killer was in another country.
방금 살짝 쫄았지?
Still, you were about to pee your pants, huh? Do you like scary stories? Wait, so is it actually the building or?
응.
Oh yeah. A mysterious beauty with a knife hidden behind that long hair. Was there anyone better suited to tell scary stories? I could see her telling ghost stories online.
새벽에 홀로 엘리베이터를 탈 때 이 이야기를 떠올려줘.
Ah, she's really mean. When you are riding an elevator alone at night, remember that story. Hehe. Hyuna was still massaging my wrist. This was our first time meeting each other, but she was acting as if we were old friends. It seemed like she was touching me far too much, but it didn't feel right shaking her off.
응?
After that, Hyuna led me down the empty halls of the hospital and around several corners. She didn't seem lost, rather she appeared to be intentionally going in circles. I wanted to ask what exactly she was doing, but I had no idea where this elevator was, so I followed in silence. After a while of that, I saw a door that was blocking half of the hallway. It was the type of door you could see through to the other side without opening. Corridors of big hospitals like this were often divided for no apparent reason. Huh. I pushed out in front of Hyuna and opened the door.
뭐야?
What are you doing? Huh? I just opened the door.
왜 굳이 네가?
Why would you do that? Why not?
뭘 알고 열었어?
Did you open it for any particular reason? No, I just done it out of habit. There was one time when not opening a door had caused quite the debacle. Hyuna was staring at me as I held my head in my hands. With that piercing gaze drilling into me, I went ahead and led the way when... Huh. Right there in front of me, I saw another door. I looked back. There was the transparent door I had just gone through. Through it, I could see the hallway that had led Hyuna and I here. Then in front of me, another door. At my feet, an illegible red mark stained the floor. A big hospital having one door cut a corridor in half wasn't strange, but two in a row? There was no need for an inspection booth to be here, so this structure wasn't necessary. With those doubts in my mind, I put my hand on the second door and...
잠깐만.
Wait. Why? Fiona reached over one of my shoulders and pinched my cheek. Really? Why the cheek? What's that for? What are you doing? She stood like that, hand gripping my face for quite some time. Then she stuck her other hand out so that she was pinching both of my cheeks behind. Want me to bite you? Huh?
말하지 마. 가만히 있어.
Don't speak. Just stay there. What do you think you're...
조용히 하라니까.
I just said be quiet. Fiona's hand moved from my cheek to cover my mouth. As she did, from the door we had just come through, now behind us, I heard someone knocking. Huh. Was that...
Shh.
Shh. Fiona grabbed my head and pulled me down. We ducked down like we were scrambling out of view of the window. I peered over the door behind us, wondering what on earth was happening. That was loud through my headphones. Whew. Through the door, I could see a large head. What the... You gotta admit, this is really creepy. A head. It wasn't someone just showing their face, it was an actual head. The face was so distorted, I couldn't see it was clearly not the size of a human's head. Size of humans, just like those things that attacked me from before. It looked like something was leaking out of it. Out of its eyes, its nose, its mouth. Something black was streaming out of its rivulets. The head knocked on the door. It was using its forehead on its hands to bang against the door. Its gaze wriggled its way down on me as it seemed to look me over. Hey, Groot. I should have put a proper name. I'm sorry, guys. The thing spoke in a voice I wished I didn't have to hear. Open up. Hurry up. Open the door. What are you doing? Here? Of all places? How? No way. That huge thing can't be you. More horrifying than this bizarre phenomenon I was witnessing. More terrifying than that horrible voice. I'm sorry if my voice was horrible. The fact that the face belonged to someone I knew was the most disturbing fact. Fiona was the only thing holding in my scream that wanted to escape my lips right then. Open up. Open. Open. Hey, why not open the door? Whatever. If you're going to be like that, we're through.
대답하지 마.
Don't answer. Why am I whispering? Don't answer.
지금 너한테 무슨 말이 들리는지 모르겠지만 절대로 대답하지 마.
I have no idea what sort of things you're hearing right now, but don't you dare answer.
그쪽으로 가면 안 돼.
You can't go over there. The face melting away kept rapping on the door. Then, its mouth creaked like a wooden puppet, and some sort of pus came flying out of its words. If you want to do more for me, why not just open the door instead of standing there? You know how much it hurts every time you do this? I jumped up from where I was curled up. Then I turned back. You want to throw down? I turned around, stared at the door, and spoke in a quiet voice. You're not who you're pretending to be. I don't know what you things are. I don't know where am I. But why should I open the door? You feel hurt. You... Why? I mean, he did say quietly, so I was whispering. You think that face is going to make me listen to you? You think you're trying to work me out? You want to mess with me right now?
자,
Oh.
그만.
Oh my god. That scared me. Okay, stop. Ow, ow, ow. Hyuna grabbed me by the cheeks and pulled me once more. Yes?
그러다 죽어.
You're going to get yourself killed.
놀란 걸 감추려고 화내지 마.
Don't let your anger hide the surprise you're feeling. Is it that obvious?
넌 얼굴만 봐도 뻔해.
As obvious as the look on your face. Really? Before I could question why she was talking to me like someone who had known me for a long time, that fruity aroma enveloped me. It was so warm. So warm. Hyuna, she enveloped me. Hyuna? She pulled me toward her and wrapped her arms around me like I was a doll.
괜찮아.
It's alright.
이제 그 사람은 신경 쓰지 마.
Don't worry about that person.
전부 나한테 맡겨.
Just let me take care of it, okay? One hand went up to stroke my hair as she whispered each word. The banging on the door slowly subsided. The face beyond that door is slowly faded into a form I couldn't recognize. Hyuna was smiling. Her warm arms were wrapped around my head. The thought that all this felt strangely familiar crossed my mind. Hyuna? Hyuna, as natural as ever, intertwined her fingers with mine and led me in the opposite direction. Then, another door that was obviously blocking our way forward, it completely disappeared. What was going on here?
알겠어?
Do you understand now? No.
여길 나갈 때까지 절대로 아무 문이나 함부로 열지 마.
Until you leave this place, you should never be so reckless as to open random doors. Why not?
문이 아닐 수도 있으니까.
Because it might not be just a door. Hyuna gripped my hand more tightly than before and strode forward in the lead. She seemed a little peeved. When I open a door, what happens? As I put forward my question carefully, Hyuna responded with a cold laugh.
문은 어딘가로 연결되기 마련이야.
That depends on where it leads.
사라지는 문을 열고 들어가면 어디로 가게 될까?
If you open a door that is apparent to disappear and go through it, where do you think it will lead? Hyuna kept on smiling and pointed up at the spot on the ceiling marking the top of where the door had been. There were two black handprints there, as if someone had been latched there, hanging from the spot. The interesting thing about them was that they were much bigger than a normal hand.
넌 창문 너머로 아는 사람의 얼굴을 봤을 거야.
I'm betting you saw the face of someone you knew through that window.
누가 보였어?
Who'd you see? Someone who means nothing to me now. Was it an ex-girlfriend?
아, 그래?
Ah, is that so? She looks slightly peeved now.
그럼 얼굴 위쪽은 봤어?
So did you see the top of the face? The top.
그게 뭐랑 연결되어 있는지.
Was it connected to anything? No?
안 봐서 다행이야.
You're lucky you didn't have to see that. If I got another chance to see that thing, I shouldn't take it. I was settled on the idea. As I gave my head a few shakes to get my brain right, Hyuna stepped up to me with that warm smile on her face.
저기 그렇게 무서웠어?
Hey, was it really that scary? Yes, it was. I wasn't scared.
무서웠으면 달래주려고 했는데
I was going to comfort you if you were.
왜? 땡겨?
Why? Sound good to you? Yes. What specifically does this comfort entail?
그러니까
Well, after a quick look around, Hyuna picked something up off the floor. She came close and held out a thing in her hand. A small piece of light? Is that a fragment? What's this?
받아봐.
Take it. I took the small shining crystal. It felt like a piece of glass or a gem, or sort of like a D20 die. Hyuna reached out and cupped her hand over mine, closing it over the crystal. Then she pushed my hand on my chest. I saw a little glimmer come from it before it grafted into my body.
진정해. 원래 그런 거니까.
Calm down, that's just what it does. It was absorbed through my skin.
찾아보면 더 있을 거야. 모으다 보면
If you look, you'll find more of those, and if you collect them, hurry up, take it back.
괜찮겠어?
You'd really be fine with that?
그게 있어야 여기서 나갈 수 있는데.
You need that shard to leave this place. Should have led with that. I squeezed my packs together to hold the crystal in. But what exactly was that? Hyuna shook her head without saying anything. It looked like she wasn't going to tell me. There she goes again. Miss Hyuna?
응.
Yes? You're really not going to tell me anything? Where this place is? Why all of this is going on? Hyona's hair whipped about as she turned and started walking.
돌아갈 사람이 그걸 알아서 뭐하게?
What's someone going back to their home going to do with that info? Regardless.
뭐야 그럼?
Huh. Regardless of what? Hyuna looked back over her shoulder.
여기 남기라도 하게?
Are you planning on staying here? She looked sad when she said that. That's not it. From the look on her face, I felt like I was suspended in limbo or something. Look, we have 3 out of 54 now. For quest we have 1 out of 17, and I have 2 shards. Alright guys, if you are interested in continuing the story, make sure to check out that link in the description. It's available on Steam as well. This is where I'm gonna end this video. Thanks again for watching.